Peace, 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 Moors. I hope everybody having a awesome time today. So before we get into this teaching, man, I just like to highlight what we're going to be lecturing on today because a few people have been asking me about business startup, about nonprofit startup. So I'm gonna give a little crash course of that history and how that's done and how why I always say you should never listen to a person that speak negatively and speak bad about business and they're not even a business themselves and they can't do things in the community. So we have to understand both sides instead of just some religious dogma and someone speaking from a perspective that they have no inclination or even history of. So the first thing I'm gonna talk about is removing the veil of dogma and false information pertaining to 501c3. It's 501c3 all the way to 501c10. And brothers and sisters, us as Moors, understanding who we are, and businessmen and navigators and master masons, we have to understand that we must be organized to do things in our community. And that's how I'm able to get property donated, in the city where I'm from Flint, Michigan, and get abandoned lots donated to me for a small fee, for we can have our organization in the community, our charter community with schools and education and businesses. So, first I want to highlight one of the things that how I go to they call it the hardest hit fund to elementary schools that some might not want to go. And I have my nonprofit financial literacy, and it's entitled Agelani Financial Literacy and Nonprofit Business Startup, where I go to a lot of the, schools to where our children are, and they might not understand business, and we teach the dynamics of 501c3 and nonprofit startup. And when a lot of my students graduate out of high school, they have their own EIN, their own tax exempt number, with their own business credit. Our More Power training, to where we teach our youth how to work out and eat healthy. These are things as part of my nonprofit, how I'm able to navigate. We teach our youth how to do t-shirts. And we also have our Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School, where we teach metaphysics, local, state, federal law, committed and adapt science, alchemy, healthy eating and living, history, our history, and also nonprofit small business startup. These are the things, Islam, peace, peace, peace. But these are the things that we should be teaching our children, along with their spirituality. We have to teach economics. We have to teach finances and how we can do things in our community instead of begging. A beggar nation cannot save itself. And there's nothing noble about being poor and broke, Moors. So the first thing I'm just gonna do a crash course of some of the dynamics of 501c3, what are Crick 30s, what is the Duns and Bradstreet, and just some things how to solicit for grants and things in your community. So I want to be clear on things. I hope brothers and sisters, please listen and just research things. You can't do nothing in your community if you're not organized. Every rich person, every politician, you have to understand why they have nonprofits and why they support each other and how they can support their charitable contribution or anything that they want to do because they can support it. And that's the same way what we're doing with the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. Morris, I'm based out here in Arizona, but I'm from a city called Flint, Michigan. In my neighborhood, I grew up in an area, it's called West Patterson area, where it's a lot of plight. Houses are abandoned. A lot of the houses, the cities are tearing down right next to each other. So my next question to Morris, and I'm going to go back this summer in July, and I'm going to show you the whole campaign, what I'm doing. I'm going to record me going downtown, talking to the mayor, talking to the city hall, and it's a thing called they own the houses in the neighborhood, land bank, and I'm going to show you how I'm going down there, talking to them, getting a lot of property donated to me, and getting a lot of lots. I'm buying them for like pennies to the dollar instead of leasing them. Because you can lease things in your property for $1, but you don't want to lease it. You want to own the things in your community for pennies and able to have a charter community. And I'm going to show you how I'm doing that right in my community, right in Flint, Michigan, where it's blocks of abandoned houses. Like in certain neighborhoods, you have side streets. You have main streets and then you have side streets. So for instance, I grew up in a neighborhood, Patterson and DuPont, and it's a side street called Mount Elliott, right behind off Patterson. And it's a side street right off Patterson. That whole street is abandoned. Each house, all the houses on the right and the left side is abandoned. I'm gonna show you how I'm getting all that property, and I say hopefully by the summer the whole street will be property of the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. Both sides. The whole street is literally tore down. It's a couple abandoned houses on that block. And we get those couple abandoned houses for pennies of the dollar, tear them down, and hopefully, prayerfully, we start revitalizing the community. And I'm gonna show the blueprints, and I'm gonna start doing things in the community, asking the community for donations. This is real. This is how you take over your community, man. It's like I see so many brothers as Moors, dissing things, and I say, well, don't you know the Moorish Science Temple of America is a 501c3? How are you going to do things in your community? How are you going to get plight in your community and all those and get charitable contributions from donors and from your community and from organizations if you don't understand the dynamics of a 501c3 and then have people in your organization as contractors so you can get those contracts to tear down the plight in your community? Don't you know 501c3, you're tax exempt for federal government. You're able to teach spirituality, education, scientifically. You're charitable. You can do all that. You're just like the Goodwill in the community. You're just like the YMCA in the community. You're just like the Girl Scouts in the community. And I continue to see Negro, Black, and colors not understand the finances but arguing over some man-made religion. That does not make sense, Moors. I promise you. If you're a pastor, no disrespect to no pastor, I've been all through the religious houses. So I'm speaking from a place that I know. If your pastor went to seminary, he's trained a certain way. He's trained under religious dogma by an overseer. And the only book some religious preachers read is the Bible. They don't understand language. They don't understand that you can't transliterate Greek to Hebrew to English. And if they do know it and then they're teaching you lies, then that says something about yourself. I mean, look at all these churches in the community. The church has been there, and the churches are nonprofit. Most of them are 501c3. That means they tax exempt for the federal government. That means they've been collecting money, doing what with it? The building is paid for. And then you got all these raggedy houses right in the infrastructure right by the churches, and you telling me the churches are not owning them? They would donate these properties to the churches. And then you can start soliciting other companies for charitable and contributions, monetary and tangible. This is what I do when I go into the schools, when I go to different organizations, and I show them these things. A lot of places can't pay the fee that a lot of other places pay. And so by me being a nonprofit organization, I can draw things up as in-kind service, meaning say if my fee is, say, $500 and an organization doesn't have those funds, we can go and settle, okay, well, that organization can give me a sitting fee, and we can draw the rest up as in-kind service. So say the organization only have $200, we can draw the rest $300 up as in-kind service. And they can bank $500 on their taxes. They get a receipt, but Moors don't understand business. They steady arguing. You cannot do anything in your community under sole priorityship. That means that's your personal finances, and you better be able to prove everything. You better be making enough money to prove everything, or not, they coming down. That's why you must have a nonprofit organization in your community. We got to understand that, Moors, and that's nothing to argue about. So it's certain when people be talking about setting up their business, and some things Moors get misinformation. It's a different from an EIN and a tax exempt status. The EIN is just establish your business, but then also your tax exempt status is how you're tax exempt for the federal government. When I tell you that my organization, even my temple, my cars, all my bills is in my temple name, and that's legal. We don't do nothing illegal. But it's certain ways that you form your nonprofit. And I teach this to businesses and to organizations, and other organizations winning. But Negro, Black, and colors, they get so caught up in religion, only thing they going to say is Jesus is going to save me, but you're not going to do nothing, no work. Well, what about the slave ship Jesus from Sir Hawkins? If we're going to talk about things, we got to talk about real history, man. We got to talk about real history. Talk about things they don't. We've been so indoctrinated with pseudo academia and this religion. I promise you, and most brothers and sisters, I promise, my father just turned 73 yesterday, highly educated. And now that my father is studying under my auspices, a lot of times he cry. He say, son, I'm gonna tell you, I'm 73, highly educated. A lot of the things that you speak on, he didn't know. Because I say a lot of things are just locked up in libraries. And it's a thing called the reading list. So I'm coming from a place of scholarship, man. Nothing is hidden. But we must reveal it. Your preacher, that's a master mason. He knows this history. That's how he's winning. But you must understand the dynamics of 501c3. And understand that that corporation does not pay income taxes on its earnings or the donations it receives. What am I saying? That's why I say the miseducation of the Negro. If you in the neighborhood, I'm just going to give you an analogy. I had one of my homeboys that was a hustler in my neighborhood, making crazy money. He ended up going to prison, everything gone. Don't you know a person can drop money in your so-called tie box if you're a real nonprofit organization doing things in the community, and that's tax exempt? Don't you know the people in your community can donate money to your organization? That's tax exempt. That's why I tell Negro, Black, and Colored, we can have anything in our community. We can have our own buildings and everything, our own stores. How? We support them. They're nonprofit organizations. Why? So we can teach it to the kids. That's charitable contribution. I mean, we're teaching something. Not saying we're not making money. We're making money. Just the money going to be exhumed at the end of the year. Meaning if we're making $5 million a year per se, that's going to be out to salary and everything into what we're doing, and it's going to be exhumed. Next year, the 500 exhumed. That's what nonprofit means. It don't mean we're not making money, but it means the money that we're getting from charitable contributions and from different donors is being used to run an organization, Moors. And that's how we're going to take over our community infrastructurally, legally. But we complain about these goofball churches. And, I mean, I know so many people that go to church, and as soon as they leave church, they complain about the pastor in their car. But they're giving up their hard-earned dollars. That is an oxymoron to me, and it doesn't make sense. I'm a real organization. We can do this. The people can support it. Don't you know $150 in Flint, Michigan can buy maybe 2 lots? And I'm going to show Moors. I've been using my own finances to buy a whole block. To have it gated off, to have a gated community. These are the things that I'm going to do. And it's happening in Detroit. It's brothers that already have gardens and have gotten funds from the government. Just like in Flint, Michigan, I knew one of my karate instructors, Master King. He's passed. He took a whole street in the city of Flint off Saginaw Street and turned it into an urban garden and got grants. And now they sell a lot of the fruits and vegetables to the farmers market. And a lot of the youth in the city are farmers. That's what we're going to do in our community. And we can do it. And I'm asking for my brothers and sisters' help. This is real. We donate to charities that we don't know nothing about. We donate to YMCA and all these other organizations. We don't even know where the funds go. I'm the same thing. When I had my temple on Van Buren in Arizona, I had families coming up donating clothing, and we would distribute them to the people. And I'm able to give them a receipt, just like you give back to Goodwill, and claim up to $500. This is real. When I say you must be legit on paper, this can be done all over, just like other so-called churches. They have satellite areas. The Burning Bush Tabernacle, it don't have to be just in Arizona and in Flint, Michigan, and in Vegas where I operate. We can be all over when people fall under the auspices, and we can have branches all over. Just like when you're a member of your so-called Christian church. Once you become a member on paper, that means you have all the legal rights as an acting member. But your preacher ain't going to tell you that. When people become members of my organization, you have all the rights. Under that organization, you are a nonprofit. And under that entity, you can do your thing. You can do your women's youth service, whatever, and apply for grants. And and when you go buy things, have an ID that's tax exempt. When you go places, you get you pay no taxes. These are the things that we do, and how we go in school and teach it through my nonprofit. How I'm able to go in the schools that most people don't want to go in. So it's a process to set up your nonprofit. I'm not going to go all the way through that, but we are putting out a book. It should be done in a couple weeks. But if anybody wants me to come to their organization, I did a lecture at Estrella Community College and at Grand Canyon University for an hour about the whole structure and I do it at schools. And once the parents follow that structure, their kids graduate when they're in the 12th grade, and they have their own EIN, their own tax exempt status, and they also have their own nonprofit status, and they have $1,000 in it. And I showed them how to apply for grants. I showed them how every state you have Grant Watch. So I'm in Arizona, you have Arizona Grant. When I'm in Michigan, you have Michigan Grant Watch. And on there, you can apply 3 months, a month, or 6 months at a time. And on that site, Grant Watch, they have grant writers that you can solicit. Luckily, I have one of the professors at GCU that's a grant writer that helped me. And a lot of times when she knows grants that I can get, she hit me up and say, hey, I'm going to apply for this grant for you. And I usually get them in the summer when I'm free. And I do things at the YMCA. I do things, I lease buildings. And we put on a summer feeding programs and have G-Card come feed to kids. And we feed to seniors, which is free. Back when I was at home in Flint, Michigan, I used to do so many lectures at these churches and said, look, man, you have all these seniors in your community. I showed churches and even organizations how to feed their seniors for free through the Meals on Wheels. And my dad was the executive director. So I used to go around to all of the organizations and churches and everything and say, hey, you can feed everybody in your community, the seniors and the kids, through Meals on Wheels. A hot and a cold meal, the inshore. And I show them how to do that. I show the community all the different programs where seniors can get their houses fixed, where low-income families can get their houses fixed. These are things that we do in the community. And then I also show how you can go down to the land bank and get all those areas that's surrounded in your church donated. And then have the people in the community that have those skills fix them. There's also grant money in the community to where they call it the Green and Feed Project, to where if you have a church or organization in your community, you can get a grant to cut all the plight down in the neighborhood. This is stuff that I teach, so you don't have to have plight in your community. They have grants, they pay people in the community to do this. And then you get the property for a little bit of nothing. And then the people in your organization, you are the ones that rebuild it. Just like the misnomer Mexicans. How a Mexican, and I have a lot of my partners, when they get builders, their whole family put in and get the property and fix it up and go to the next. That's what we do. And I have other donors that's not Moors, that's not the you of my skin, but they're business people. And I promise you, Moors, they're dealing with me. So once I get started and once I start operating, everybody else is going to have to be part of the community. I'm trying to get people right now on the front end. Don't you know all this stuff, when you go on Land Watch, when you deal with land, it's property that you can get right now donated. People need to pull their resources together. I see so many brothers who they say they don't have the income, but they have a closet full of tennis shoes. They have a closet full of clothes. A lot of them getting their income tax and they blowing on clothes. I say your income tax right now is property. You can be a stakeholder in the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School on record. That's real, with notary of the public, and see our infrastructure and see the property that we're building and see the blueprint and actually come to the city and be like, this is what we're doing. And yes, it takes time, but I'm doing a lot of things on my own, but we're picking up pace and we're getting a lot of donors to help out. I'm going to be with the Chamber of Commerce real soon, man. And if a lot of these finances come available, once I start doing my campaign and I start doing my PowerPoint presentation, soliciting other organizations for seed money to be able to teach agriculture, real history, and create my big public library and my museum with all the artifacts I have right in our communities. But that's just a little bit of what I'm talking about, man. And I don't want to get all into it, but I can show you about personal income tax guide. It's going to be all in our book. Why forming a 501c3? And the best reason to form a 501c3 nonprofit corporation is because you've determined that it's the most effective way to pursue our charitable goals. That's why we are missionaries, like our prophet Noble Drew Ali said. So if you're a missionary, it's charitable goals you can do. Just because you do charitable things doesn't mean you don't get taken care of for the charitable things that you do. You must pay yourself as being part of that organization. I hope you're following me, Moors. I hope you're following me, Moors. We have to understand the dynamics of finances. We have to understand about making ourselves right on paper. We're going to let these churches keep doing it. And when I say you can do this yourself, I go step-by-step process. I take my out my mouth, and I'm using an analogy. And I hold your hand, and I walk you step by step through the process. And in the process, you will have your tax exempt status. You will have your 501c3. You have to post it in the newspaper for 3 weeks. I'll show you the whole process. I'll show you the attorneys I went through, the foundation group. I hold your hand. to where you don't overstep your boundaries when you're applying for quick 30 accounts. I'll show you all this. You know, I'm right in Flint, Michigan. I'll be in Flint, Michigan for 3 months. Two of my brothers, that's Moors that I'm teaching, they're staying in Detroit. I'm always in Detroit. And I try to reach out to Moors, but a lot of Moors are on religious dogma. So I deal with groups. And when I come in town, I host speakings at the YMCA. The YMCA let me use classrooms for $25 an hour. Sometimes they let me use it for free because I'm a real non-for-profit. And I do charitable things where I don't charge. I ask for a donation. It's the verbiage. I don't charge nothing. I ask for a donation, a willing contribution. If you give, you give. You don't, you don't. If we ask for a donation of $10, a donation is donation. If you don't have $10, you have $1 because the strong should bear the infirmities of the weak. I'm not going to let nothing stop me from going to teach my people business, economics, agriculture, true spirituality, and true masonry. But I've spent money on acquiring the knowledge. And when I go places to different groups, to Europeans and things, I promise you they pay top dollars. Some groups of Masons, they bought all my literature, spent $1,000, and I donate my books to my people for $20, and they don't want receipts. So I hope we understand the dynamics of what I'm talking about and the importance of operating as a 501c3, understanding true business. You know? But first, Morris, you got to think about what's your best accomplishments you aiming for in running a new organization, or whether you could do more, do good by donating your time and money to an existing organization. That's what I'm talking about. Listen to what I said. Sometimes it's better to deal with an existing operation that's already set up. I tell Morris we should investigate everything just like we investigate our relationship, just like we investigated somebody's jewelry reel or somebody Jordan's reel. We don't do no investigating. We just go on pageantry, things that look good. But we should jump on things when we see things that can do things right. And we donate our time and our finances to an existing organization like the Burning Bush Tabernacle or any other thing that you would like to do in a community. You get a tax-exempt receipt, just like anywhere else, and claim on your taxes. We're real. And remember, Moors, you don't have to become an IRS-recognized nonprofit organization to start a charity. But however, people will be significantly more interested in donating if their gifts will be tax deductible. And if you're not a established 501c3, you're not able to apply for grants. And you're not able, when people donate, they're not able to claim that on their taxes. So follow me. You don't have to become an IRS recognized nonprofit organization to start a charity. However, Moors, people will be significantly more interested in donating if their gifts, what gift? Monetary and tangible, meaning their time, meaning their finances. You can write that up as in-kind service. It would be tax deductible. Like when I go do lectures in certain areas, certain areas I charge a fee. They can't pay. They pay half. The rest drew up as in-kind services. Just like I have friends that went pro in sports. Now they going broke because they didn't establish 501c3s, because they didn't take their money out of sole priority and put it in their nonprofit and do things in their community so they can continue to raise funds. Because most Negro, Black, and colored, I don't care if you're making money playing sports or entertainment, they don't know the dynamics of 501c3. You know? Period. But also, Moors, our 501c3 status means that potential donors are more likely to see your organization as legitimate instead of you just trying to raise some money to do something. You can be researched. Much of the financial and operation information that 501c3s are required to report to the IRS becomes public record, just like how the Moore Science Temple is set up with an affidavit. It's public record. You can research me. And it's required to report to the IRS, and it becomes public record. Just like that 1010-9-590, that number to Moores, thinking it's some attached to some a vast estate, that ain't nothing but an affidavit to establish a religious organization. Flat out. That's why these organizations like myself and other ones can easily be scrutinized and held accountable if donors think their funds are being misused. Like, for instance, if you're a part of a church and you're a mega church and your pastor is a 501c3 and he got all these Bentleys and cars and nothing happening, you can be like, something ain't happening. That's fraud. You know? And if you become 501c3, that's when you get the green light, and your organization won't pay income tax on the money it earned from its fundraising activities and the donations it receives. Are we clear? You don't pay taxes. You have the green light. You don't pay taxes. You don't pay income tax on money it earns from its fundraising. What's fundraising? Raising money and activities and donations. What donations? Raising money that it receives. Where do you receive money from? From individuals, from organizations, from the hustler in the community that's just extracting. He can do some good. How? By donating his funds. Pay your taxes in the community. That's how you can help your community, man. I'm giving keys, and I'm going to show more. It's just working. That's why I go to the prisons and I still talk to brothers. Because I show them how you can do some good, and when you can get out, I can employ you. Not say, you have a whole bunch of stories of how much money you made. No, how you invested your resources and help build the infrastructure in your community, so when you get out, you can have income. I can employ you. I don't care about your record. I teach you. We bringing things back to people remembrance. We're trying to save our community and our people. So if you want to be a 501c3, listen to the dynamics when you can do business. The IRS says that you want to operate as a 501c3, your organization must exclusively pursue an activity in which of the following categories: religious, that's Moorish Science Temple of America, that's churches; charitable, that's Moorish Science Temple of America, that's churches; scientific, literacy and educational; testing for public safety, fostering national or international amateur sports and competition, meaning we can teach our kids everything; preventing cruelty to children or animals. Are you seeing that? We can teach everything. You should also be sure that your organization is not designed, Moors, to profit an individual, and that it provides a public benefit. You understand what I'm saying? Listen what I'm saying. You should also be sure that your organization is not designed to profit an individual, and that it provides a public benefit. What am I saying again? When you collect funds, when people donate to you, all those funds are being exhumed. Exhumed to what? To do the charitable contribution and pay the volunteers or the workers that's doing the organization. That's right. That's right. But you must be willing to do the work. We must be willing to investigate. We must have those that's willing to keep going and keep going. Others has been doing it. I mean, it's been happening. The YMCA, nonprofit. The Boys and Girls Club, nonprofit. Name a whole bunch of other platforms that's nonprofit. That's extracting money. That's lying to you, telling you can get this. And they're just raising funds. We can do it. It's buildings in our communities, man, that's worth pennies. That's starting off of, it's buildings for $4, $5, $6, $7,000. Old buildings. Don't you know brothers and sisters can put their pennies together, can put $400 or $500 together and buy up the whole community. The old buildings, that can be our school, that can be our temple. A whole nother building, that can be all of the hair salon, the educational center. A whole nother building, the senior center. A whole nother building, sports facility. A whole nother building, what, masonry and job placement, skill trades. What else? A whole community where all the houses are the same, to where you get everything by the book. And we have a charter community. I'm telling you, it's individuals, Europeans buying up. You don't know who buying them up because they send the other individuals in your community buying that stuff up for pennies. The money that we spending on Jordans, $200 and $300 for, they buying up land in your community. And we complaining, why are these people doing this? Because they organized. But I'm not going to let it happen to my neighborhood. I'm going to have my little piece around all that crap. It might just be one block. It might just be one block from here to here. But you got to remember, a side street, you have houses on both sides. And I'm almost done with both sides. It's going to be the property of the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. And I'm going to show that when I go back to Michigan in Flint this summer. I already purchased. We grew up in a city on Patterson Street. My mother had a house on the corner and father. And when the white people moved out next door, my mother bought the house next door and turned the corner house to our daycare center. So my mother always showed me business. And so now a lot of people are moved out. A lot of people are moved out in the community. The house on the corner is mine. Where my brother stayed is mine. And so it's like 5 or 6 or 7 houses going up Patterson Street. I've gotten them all. All the lots, some of them donated to me, and some of the lots was only $70. That's cheaper than Jordans. That's cheaper than a pair of Michael Jordans. And we're going to put gardens on it. We're going to put pole barns on it instead of building new houses and all that. We're going to put pole barns. I've done all the research, man. You can get nice pole barns built on your land, man, for like 20,000. I'm talking about nice pole barns that you can have your center, gyms, our teaching, our facilities in it, and change the whole dynamics of the community. You know? We can change the infrastructure of our community, man. We got to show these churches. The church has been sucking. I'm not saying them all, but the ones that I've been to, they sucking the community dry. I see so many people in the churches talk about they want to do something. I say, your church is a nonprofit. Why you ain't doing it? My sister part of a church. I'm like, the pastor ain't the fool. The people there is a fool because we're not using the community. I'm asking my brothers and sisters to investigate, to come in. We can do this. Let's build this, man. It ain't about me. It's about establishing things, man. That we can do things the right way. You know? Business, nonprofit in the community. Our nonprofit temple. Yes. It's foolishness. And it's on us to go in and stand strong. We always talking about some white man and some white. If that's the case, some white men, why are we under some European overseer religion? And why are we not teaching the text from our perspective? What are we afraid of? Because our Negro, black, and colored preachers are puppets. And I can speak from this. They're not going to tell you that the Asiatic black man is the father of civilization, proven biblically and historically. They're going to get up there and tell you some bull crap, some Jesus crap. I'm telling you, man. They don't have, it's so much biblical history. Why you think they don't talk about Ruth the Moabitess? Why you think preachers don't talk about the genealogy of Yahshua the Messiah? You should ask that. Why you think in the biblical scriptures in Deuteronomy it says the Canaanite, which is a Moabite and a Amorite, can't enter the kingdom of God? Why you think it says that a Amorite and a Amalekite can't enter the kingdom of God? Well, that's you, Moors. That's you. You the Canaanites. You the Moabites. We're the genealogy of Jesus, which is Yahshua the Messiah. I'm telling you, I can quote everything. We've been misquoted. Nothing is fulfilled. In that context, it's a Greek word called paliro, meaning back to your remembrance. It's just, we've been lied to, man. So, with that being said, I'll just give a crash course on that nonprofit startup. If brothers and sisters really want the information, I can come and hold your hand. I teach the students how to do it, where to go through, not to overjump, not to put one foot before the other when you're applying for quick 30s, because the more you apply for them, you will get denied. You only want to apply for 3, and I show you the 3 that you should apply for if you're really operating. You got Quill, you got a couple other ones that will help you establish your business credit, and then I show you how to establish your business credit on the Duns and Bradstreet. It's like a credit reporting. But when I talk about quick 30s, those are accounts that you use, and you have 30 days to pay it back in full. And we have quick 30 accounts at Staples, Office Max, and other places that we use, and we pay them. And it's reported on the Duns and Bradstreet, and we use those. Those are quick 30s. And now our business credit is over 800. I reestablish everything and reestablish all my business and put it under our non-for-profit. So I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. If not, I would teach that. This is what we should be teaching in the churches, man. We're in there arguing over some religion. We're not teaching business, and we steady broke, and everything around us is raggedy. But the church is okay. Everything around us should be okay. And if our preachers is not teaching that, then we should get them out, just the same way we got them in. What are we afraid of? If you in churches, you reading your bylaws. If you in church and your church have bylaws, you should understand what's in the bylaws and how to get a pastor in and how to get them out. Not somebody just sitting there sucking the sources out the community. And then when they sucked everything out, they leave. And then we get another Negro preacher to do the same thing. And it's just a job to them. I'm telling you, man. The churches are huge and they close. They only open on Sunday. And then for Sunday school, some so-called Bible study. Well, I'm going to tell you, look at the books, look at the little Bible study books and see who authored them. The Catholic Church. They come in colors by the season. Read it. Look at it and see who giving you the resources, the Roman Catholic. And most preachers don't understand history and dispensation. When I say Catholic, Islam, it was under the Byzantine Empire. History, man. You got to understand what an overseer is. The slave ship Jesus is real. Sir Hawkins got the Negro, black, and color on that ship, convinced him with the religion because he was so-called religious. I'm telling you, man. Research it. Research why they're not going to tell you geographical landmass. I don't care what Bible you have. You have Europe and you have the continent of Africa and Maxima. It was a difference. It was a type. That's why so many versions of the Bible. But I don't see none of my people reading the God name Bible, the Holy Name Bible, and that's what we're getting ready to touch on. That's what we're getting ready to touch on. Because this is something for my brothers and sisters that's under religious dogma. And I challenge you, I'm not here to convert nobody to religion. That ain't my mission. I've been through all the religious houses. I'm a Moorish master adept. I understand the triple rule of the adept chamber. I understand the essence of all three religious rites. But when you get into religious dogma and you don't understand analogy, allegorical, parables, symbology, and dispensations, you're caught in things that was really internal, and they just made them physical things to make you think those things were physical beings. And they not explaining that those were things in the physical body and in the atmosphere. The 12 disciples, the 12 constellations, so much stuff, the 12-step ladder. It's so much stuff. And everything must be broken down. So you don't get caught up in religious dogma, Moors. So, for my Hebrew Israelite brothers, I'm going to give you some history, so get your pens, please, family. And even my so-called brothers, when I ask them, well, what are you? Who are you? And they say they're Christian. I say, that's not your nationality. And what's a Christian? The etymology of that is Cretan. Research what that is. And that's not what they called themselves. That's what somebody called you, laughed at you. I'm telling you. So, let's jump in the preface of the Holy Name Bible. And I want you to walk with me. And then you should ask some questions. And then we're going to do this, the Yoso Somos code, and then we're done. And we might give a warning to the Moors if time permits. But in 1963, and several later revised versions and editions Moors, the Scripture Research Association published the Holy Name Bible, which restored the sacred names of our Father Yahweh and His Son Yeshua, along with other scriptural corrections. Although this Bible has not been out of print for many years due to the death of Elder A.B. Triana, the preface of the preface of that Bible is well worth printing. Let's dig. Preface of the Holy Bible, Moors. For my religious Moors and my Moors that follow Christianity and my Moors that under Al-Islam, because it was Moors that follow Christianity and it was more that's under Islam in a certain time. They were called what? Moriscos and Marjorides. So, let's dig. Let's dig. If you were planning a trip through a strange country, would you knowingly choose an inaccurate map which shows non-existent roads and bridges? Of course not, Moors. You will go get the most accurate map available, right? Right? Islam, somebody's telling me something if I can proceed. Because I want to hope people are here still. Right? The Holy Name version provides a more nearly accurate map of the kingdom of heaven. We're talking about things on earth. When the biblical scripture says, I want the same thing on earth as it is in heaven. So you don't have to be there for that. If that's the case, ask your preacher, how did so-called God, Jesus, have a conversation with Lazarus in hell? Why your preacher ain't going to tell you that Gehenna is a place where they just dump stuff at? And it ain't no hell. Why they not going to tell you that Galatha is a symbology, a place of the bone? That's the blood trickling down to the skull, creating life. Why they not going to tell you that? Because they don't know the history. They're not scholars. They're trained. So the Holy Name version provides a more nearly accurate map of the kingdom of heaven and the roads and paths leading to and through it, and more clearly makes the pitfalls and dangers awaiting the traveler than any other version now available. The land of milk and honey. Don't y'all know what the land of milk and honey is? I can show you that's Akima, that's Africa. They told you that, but they encrypted. That's when the European went, when Alexander the Greek, when they got that the Greek perspective of Serapis Christos. That's when they found out, like, man, these Egyptians, these Moors, these Hebrews have been doing this for years. Just like when the Italian version, Caesar Borgia of the Borgia family, research that the replacements. You got the Greek replacement and you got the Italian replacement. Serapis Christos, the symbology of Caesar, Alexander the Greek, that's the Greek, and Caesar Borgia is the Italian. Research the Borgia family and all that sick, perverted stuff. You don't got to listen to me. You can research their pen. Are you following me, Morris? To the extent that a person's beliefs, when I say, why are we so caught up in a belief and we're not getting caught up with history and studying? Because a person's belief can be based on the belie, and your truth can be based on falsehoods. We deal with science, things that can be proven. I am a doctor, and if I research and do things, I'm going to come back to my people because I don't practice malpractice. But to the extent that a person's beliefs, morals, and conduct are based upon doctoral misinformation, supported by mistranslation, he follows a distorted map of spiritual territory, Moors. The Holy Name version is an improvement over the versions, a better map, simply because it makes use of the data, which have been known for a long time, Moors, but which generally have been confined to footnotes, commentaries, encyclopedias, and technical publications. When I tell Moors, if you're not reading footnotes, if you're not reading commentaries and encyclopedias, they put it in there. When I see Negro, Black, and Colored, and even more arguing over where some Edomite is, I say, man, all you got to do is get the Catholic encyclopedia, get the Jewish encyclopedia. They'll tell you from their mouth. You don't have to argue with nobody. But we're not doing research because we're not scholars. We're operating on religious dogma. But the efforts at producing a more understandable translation of Holy Scriptures have resulted in a legion of versions by many learned men with more of the same schedule in the immediate future, Moors, including a plan for a Catholic Protestant Bible. Don't y'all know that? Don't you know that this Catholic Bible has 77 books and the so-called King Version only has 66? And then when you get other Bibles, they have all the other books. I can show you a plethora of books. Then a Negro, Black, or Color, or a so-called Christianist tell you it's not canon. And I say, well, who says it's not canon? Because everything was good to edify. And you can't take nothing out or add nothing to it. So if you don't have all the books, you don't even know where you're going. You lost. You talk about you understand the biblical scriptures, and it's 18 missing years. And we're not going to research it. You're going to let somebody tell you it's not canon. But you got a book that they say is complete. But you got 18 missing years. That should stop you right there. And I show you in the biblical scriptures, it's prereqs. It talks about the book of Yasher. Then you read this in the book of Yasher, and it tells you what scriptures you can find it. Then you read this in the book of Yasher. Then you read this here. It's asking you a question. You should answer the question yes or no. And if you answer the question no, you should go back. The answer is simple, man. It's simply that men continue translating the Bible because none of their versions satisfied the hunger for spiritual food for which Yahweh has placed in the hearts of his people. So if we're going to interpret the book, let's interpret the book, man. Everybody say they Bible thumpers. Well, let's go over this. Thus far, these extant translations have failed to bring out the true message of the scriptures because of the following reasons. One, the Masoretes. Write this down and research this yourself, family. Masorites. I'm just a philosopher and a theosophist and an adept. And I am a historian and I teach. And I give you something to compare to ask questions to, and then make a sound decision instead of forcing something down your throat. How are you going to know real food from GMO? How are you going to know what genetic modified organisms if you haven't had nothing real? You haven't had nothing to compare to. You think that GMO is real food, and that's crap. So the Masoretes, the Jewish scholars of the Great Synagogue, in the closing of the so-called canon of the Old Testament text, which is known as the Masoretic text. Let me take my vest off. Sorry about that. Getting a little hot. Which is known as the Masoretic text, Moors. made changes and modifications of many passages to conform to their traditional teachings. Tradition, just like a lot of moral on tradition, just like a lot of teachings in tradition. That don't mean it's right. Tradition don't mean nothing. Thus, they established a fixed doctrine for the Jewish dispersion. The same scholars, in their attempt to safeguard the unity of the divine worship at Jerusalem, changed the passage in Isaiah 19 and 18, write this down, to read, "On that day there shall be 5 cities in the land of Egypt, speaking the language of Canaan, and swearing by Yahweh of hosts, and one shall be called the city of the sun." But the King James translators translated this last phrase, the city of destruction. But the original was the city of righteousness. And then you see in the biblical scriptures how the Novus Testamentum, those Catholics try to say that a Canaanite or a Morite can't enter the kingdom of heaven. I just gave it to you. They tricking you, drawing you off the land. The Masoretes in safeguarding the Tetragrammaton, the 4-letter holy name of the Most High, substituted in over what? 130 places. What will you share to the youth who don't care? This not for them about that. That's why I say we got to stay in context. This not for the ones that don't care about that. The ones that don't care about that, this not for them. We're given something that what am I displaying is when we're taught a thing and when a person asks a question, when a youth asks a question, well, what about this? Because kids are researching and they have smartphones. And so if someone asks you something, the most thing what adults do is tell the kids to shut up. Why? Because they're studying. They're saying we should be studying. So this is not for a person that don't care. And that's what I always tell my brothers and sisters. We're not here to argue. We're not here for the ones that don't care. We're here for the ones that do care. If we're going to talk about other things, we're just giving perspective for the ones that do care. The ones that don't care, this is not for them. And that's okay. And that's okay. We got to understand that and move on. But the Masoretes in safeguarding the Tetragrammaton, which is the 4-letter holy name of the Most High, substituted in over 130 places in the Hebrew text the name of the Canaanitish deity, Adonai. What I'm explaining to how you get caught up in history when our kids is talking about some Jesus, and they don't understand the history. And then I read the text and was like, wait a minute, man. Acts 24 and 5 said this pestilent brother is a ringleader of the Nazarenes. So when a person is going to ask a question, what you going to tell them? To shut up? Or we do things based on tradition? No. That's all I'm saying. Adonai, and in some places Elohim, wherever anthropomorphism. So what is anthropomorphism? These are the things that I'm talking about I teach. And I just share things with my brothers and sisters. If brothers and sisters don't want it, we can shut the platform down and I just keep doing lectures and I'll stop sharing information with brothers and sisters and I can just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not here to argue with brothers and sisters, man. We be so critical on each other's. You know, we're not talking, and what we're not talking, I'm not talking about religion. That's what we have to understand. We're not talking about religion. What we're doing is we are dissecting things. We're being philosophers. We're taking something that was shoved down our throat saying, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Asking questions. Just like you should ask a question about everything if you're going to be involved in it. That's what we're saying. That's what we're talking about, man. The chapters and books and things, an extreme illustration of this book of the prophet Daniel, which throws the prophetic student into a confusion of dates. When we break down the dates and things, when we talk about Christian theologians have translated the scriptures from a non-Israelite approach to both the Old and the New Testament, thus losing sight of what the great apostle said in the 9th chapter of Romans 11 and 22 and 29, that the scriptures were written for Israel, and to them the oracles of Yahweh were committed. That's all we saying. And the scriptures, and these are European teachers, the stuff that when I do lectures on campus, and they say that and these are a lot of my professors, and when they say, well, we know Israel is the Caucasian race, that's what they say. Reference is made to the treasure in the field and the union now. You can research this stuff in the common background of the Greek and Hebrew civilization by Dr. Cyrus H. Gordon. You can research things. The Hebrew translation. Some have tried to translate more the Bible in what they call a literal translation. But the Hebrew language cannot be literally translated into a classical language. This is when we talk about language and linguistics. Hebrew is an idiomatic language. idiomatic language, Moors. And one Hebrew word may have from 3 to 10 different meanings, depending on the context. Sometimes it has opposing meanings. And in the Bible, whole thoughts, not words, must therefore be translated. I hope we know this. That's why the writers, they'll tell you another common error amongst most of the translators is their elimination of heaven's revealed name of the Most High Yahweh and the name of his son. I can show you, even my Jehovah's Witness people, I got their old little blue book, and I break it all down. They know what the YHWH is. But they revealed the name of the Most High Yahweh and the name of his son, Yahshua the Messiah, and substituting the names of the local deities of the nations amongst whom they dwelt. That's in Psalms 96 and 5. Expressly transgression Yahweh's commandments as given in Exodus 20 and 7 and 23 and 13. When I say, no, I'm not a religious person, but I am a philosopher and I study everything. So a person should be able to sit down at any table if they say that they're a scholar and a philosopher and be able to talk about a plethora of topics from no personal aspect and give a person something to compare to and speak just on love and truth. For Yahweh, they have substituted Baal, the Babylonian deity, and Adonai, the Canaanite deity of the Phoenicians, both corresponding to the English word Lord, right? The characteristic appellation of the Most High Elohim has been substituted by the Assyrian deity God, when you hear preachers in G-A-W-D or G-O-D in English, and is repudiated by Yahweh in Isaiah 65:11, which reads as follows, Moors. But ye are they that forsake Yahweh, that forget my holy mountain, and furnish a table for God, and furnish a drink offering to many, M-E-N-I. And did you think for a second? Now, I wonder the people of Scotland and the parts of northern England celebrate the Hogmanay, which in Hebrew means the feast of the god, many, on New Year's Eve with a fellow drink for good luck. The name of the son, Yahshua, has been substituted by Jesus, Isus, I-E-S-U-S, and Azus, E-A-S-E-U-S, which means healing Zeus. And when you look in the Webster's dictionary, it says that Zeus is the sky god and is also known as D-E-U-S in Latin, D-I-O in Italian, D-I-O-S in Spanish, D-A-Y-U-S in the Sanskrit, and Z-E-U-S Sodomer, meaning Zeus the Savior. Just like when I tell more, I don't get caught up in religion. Because in European Christianity, they believe Jesus is some pie in the sky. Islam, they believe it's some pie in the sky, and you're going to get these many virgins and all this. I don't believe in that. I'm a Moorish Master Mason, and I understand that God and man is one. And I deal with the zodiac laws. But I'm a philosopher. Even in French Bible, Moors, they have been substituted, D-I-E-U. In Isaiah 65:11, it truly expresses what Yahweh thinks of Christian worship. You don't have to listen to me. Now, this is a Bible. The substitution of the name of Yahweh and Yahshua by the names of the pagan deities of the nations has brought immeasurable harm. Such names as Lord, God, Jesus, and Christ in no way represent the meaning of the name revealed by the Most High to Moses and the ancient Hebrew leaders. By employing these names, people unknowingly turn the worship of Yahweh into that of idols and actually ascribe the benevolent characteristics of the mighty one of Israel to the pagan deities. For my people that's Christians, Hosea 2:8. When we're just breaking things down, we're philosophers. We should be able to break any book down if you're studying. And when I break things down, that doesn't mean I'm with certain things. We break things down. I just told you what I am. But in the original, the sacred names have deep literal and symbolic meaning, which have been almost entirely lost by the substitution of the names of the local gods, Moors. From time to time, attempts have been made at partial restoration, as in the case of the I.B. Crampton text, the A.B.B.E. Crampton text, Moors. I can't read that to you because a lot of people won't understand the Spanish and the Latin that I'm reading. But Mas vos qui aus abundant. Yahweh is talking about Yahweh. It's talking about the table of God, of Gad the seer. Remember when I told you that Gad and the Jews, the Igbos of Nigeria, are the original Jews, but that's a whole nother story. That makes a lot of sense. When I talk about when they replace you, it's all replacement. Jew is short for Judah. Ain't no such genetically, ain't no such thing as no Jew, ain't no such thing as the Arab. Period. If you don't believe me, research the Arabs by Bertrand Thomas. It's a European, stayed with the brothers for 14 years and prove that who the Arab is. Period. So, let's finish. But research the Eb Crampton text. But Moffat, in his introduction, makes the following statements concerning the names. Follow me. Strictly speaking, this ought to be rendered Yahweh, which is familiar to modern readers in the erroneous form of Jehovah. Were this version intended for students of the original, there would be no hesitation whatsoever in printing Yahweh. And note, from the Bible, a new translation by James Moffat, copywritten in 1935 by Harper and Brothers. Although Moffat, the eternal, in place of Yahweh, he fully admits a distant loss of meaning in this. Because he don't give the name, but he goes back in his writing, in his memoir, and said even him by using the eternal and not telling people the names, it was a distinct loss. And he says, the disadvantages of substitution have been recognized for a long time. The 1872 edition of the Smith's Bible Dictionary states, the substitution of the word Lord is most unhappy. For while it is in no way represents the meaning of the sacred name, the mind has constantly to guard against a confusion with its lower uses, and above all, the direct personal bearing of the name of the revelation of God. It keep injuriously out of sight. That's what it says in the Dictionary of the Bible by William Smith, John Murray, 1872, pages 195 to 196. Also, Rotham, he devotes a chapter of his introduction in the Rotham Joseph Bryant, the Emphasized Bible, a new translation, in Cincinnati, the Standard Publishing Company in 1902, to an explanation of the name, the reasons for the consequences of its suppression, and the need for the restoration. Regarding its suppression, he says in one of his chapters, it is therefore the most natural presumption that the suppression of the name has entailed upon the reader, and especially upon the hearer, irreparable loss. So what he's saying is, you don't know what the heck you think you believe, or what you think you don't believe. Restoration of the name Yahweh is necessary, he says, because its suppression was a mistake. So grave a mistake cannot be corrected too soon. An unwarrantable liberty has been taken. The path of humility is to retrace our steps. So when a person talks about they're not into things, because they're getting it the wrong way. When I break it down, all the kids get into it because I give history, not just some Bible. I give history books. I give books that's in the libraries. I can show them who they are. And then show them that they're Moors. And then go get the 1599 Geneva Bible and show them that misnomers is African and Ethiopian. And show them right in the 1599 Bible, everywhere it talks about Ethiopian and African in the King James Bible, it says more. Period. You can research that. The word Yahweh is comprised of parts of the verb to be and signifies self-existence. We're going to talk about the palindrome. We're going to talk about that next. I got 20 minutes to finish. While he has many titles such as Elo, Elion, and Elohim, and while he is characterized as Yahweh Nisi, we're talking about that manifestation. Yahweh our banner, Exodus 17, 8 and 15. Yahweh Rapha, Yahweh our healer, Exodus 15, 26. Yahweh Raha, Yahweh is my shepherd, that's Psalms 21. Yahweh Tiskanu, Yahweh our righteous, Jeremiah 23 and 6. Yahweh Shalom, Yahweh our peace, Judah 6 and 24. Yahweh Sabatos, Yahweh of hosts, and Yahweh Yireh, Yahweh's the provider in Genesis 22, 13 and 14. The name in each case is Yahweh, coupled with a distinctive characteristic. The scriptures are specific and leave no doubt about the importance of the name and our responsibilities concerning it, man. Isaiah 42:8. I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another name, neither my praise to graven images. This is for my brothers and sisters that say they study the scriptures. There's so much. Misleading ideas and belief were implanted during the process of carrying the Hebrew ideas and ideas into the context of a pagan Greek and Roman world. When I talk about when you get the 1828 Webster Dictionary, when you look up what a Hellenistic and what Hellenized mean, I hope you follow me. And that's the Greek language. How did Alexander the Greek get to Africa? From the Aegean Sea. It's a sea from Europe to Asia. But the Hellenizing of the original books of the Bible brought about this distortion, which still plague earnest scripture students. An illustration of this occurs in the use of Greek word Hades or Hades, with all its mythological connotations as a place of endless torture to which the Greek gods regulated those who displeased them, as a purported equivalent of the Hebrew Sheol, Sheol, and Gehenna, which I just gave you a minute ago, Gehenna, neither of which convey any such notion. The doctrine that the Messiah descended into hell was thus an outgrowth of adopting the Greek context of Hades in the place of the Hebrew connotation of Sheol, which is the tomb. There's so many errors, man, which crept in the New Testament after the first century have been kept alive. So I challenge you to research that, Moors. I challenge you to research that. And I'm going to finish with this. Because one of my brothers, he was like, man, would you please go with that Yoso Somos code? And I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to give my Moors this, and I'm done. Let's see. So one thing that I always like to show more is mirror words and what a palindrome word is. When I'm going to show you something. Follow me, and I'm going to show you something. When you understand numbers, and when you understand language, and symbols and signs and symbols, you connect things. So watch this. Remember the word I gave you, Yosoy, right? Yoso Somos code. Remember what I said. So we got to talk about a holographic nature of this code. So I hope you got your pencils and papers and write this down. I'm going to give you a holographic nature of this code. So you get the OS, AMO, right? It's spelled within this code. The amos means I love you in Spanish. Right, Moors? Yosoy, I am. Somos, somos, we are. And in that sequence, you got 13 AO sequences. What I'm meaning? I am the alpha, omega, AMA equals imperative form of the verb to love. I hope you follow me, Moors, when a person gets you caught up because they ain't going to break things down. Watch this. By looking at the word more, Yosoy, write that down on a piece of paper. You can see that it's a palindrome word. A palindrome word is a word that can be read the same way from the left to the right to the left. That's why I call it a holographic divine imprinting, a signature. Right? In Hebrew, watch this. When I show you about the book, The True Indian is the Hebrew Israelite by Adar, when you see the Indians going, Hayya, Hayya, Hayya. Now, take Hayya, Hayah. Write that down. Now, watch this. You can see that's a palindrome word, right, Morris? Right? So what's the odds of that? What's the odds that Yosoy, Somos, and Hayah are mirror words of themselves and also mean in Hebrew the same thing if you understand the Hebrew letters. If you understand the Hebrew letters, Morris. So I'm going to give you things. I want you to research it. Thayer's Concordance, Thesaurus, says this about Hayah. Original, you get the two Hebrew ends. It's transliteration to higher. Phonetic, Hawayaw. Haya. Definition, to be, become, come to pass, exist, happen, fall out. To happen, fall out, occur, take place, come about. etc, exist, existence. To abide, remain, continue. To occur, to be done, be finished, be gone. In the strong concordance, I am, haya. In the strong concordance is numbered 1961, 1961 Moors. So when a texan be like, and I'm just using an analogy, I'm keeping it fun. Hayal is not Texan. It is Hebrew and means I am all. In fact, Moors, haya is an all-inclusive verb. It encompasses all tenses at the same time. Haya is the I am, the is, the was, and will be. He is the word. When my brothers that say they investigate everything, John 1:1, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and God was God. And the word was God. So notice the word. Notice that word, W-R-D, is mentioned 3 times. The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. So just follow me when we just deciphering things. So when we say Yahweh, Y-A-H-W-E-H, remember that Haya is the root form, the original name of that creative manifestation. Even the Hebrew characteristics or the Hebrew characters of Yahweh are holographic or palindrome in nature. When you research it, the N, the dash, the N, the same way to the left, same way to the right. And you can see the 3 sevens. When you look at it, you can see the 3 sevens. I can put all the 3 sevens and make the triangle, the compass and the square. We can decipher this. Think of that for a minute, Moors. Get higher. Look at it closely. From the I am, look at higher. And highlight that Y real bright in the middle. You see higher to the right and what you got to the left of higher. You got Y-A-H to the right and Y-A-H to the left. And now you read simultaneously from the balance point outward in both directions. To the left and to the right. What word is it, Moors? Both ways. I am, and I am. Did you know that in Spanish, ha, H-A-Y, means there is or to exist in singular and plural? H-A-Y, on Dios, there is one God. Exodus 6 says it all. 6:2. And God spake unto Moses and said unto him, I am, Y-H-W-H. If you understand the Hebrew writings, Exodus 6:3, and I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, El Shaddai, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to give that title. But by my name, Y-H-W-H, was I not known to them. When people say they don't know the name, we do know the name. If a Messiah come from amongst you, root of Yahweh is higher, I am. More so when Yeshua said it himself. He is the I am. You can read in your biblical scriptures, Exodus 3:13. Moses asked God, what is your name? In verse 14, God tells Moses to say to the Israelites, I am, has sent me to you. This is the introduction for Moses to him who is life. Life is the person and presence of him who is life. I am, Haya. We just breaking things down. We study everything. Exodus 3:14. And Elohim said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am, Haya, has sent me unto you. Haya equals I am is a name. In this context, Moors, Exodus 3:14 equals P-I or N. I hope you know what I'm saying. John 18:5, they answer him, Yeshua of Nazarene. When I tell you in Acts 24:5, this pestilent brother is a ringleader of the Nazarenes. Yeshua said unto them, I am, and Judas also, which betrayed him, stood with them. When Yahshua repeated the name of I am for the second time, he spoke with power of Elohim. John 18:6, and when Yahshua had said unto him, I am, they went backward and fell. That's the story in the Aramaic, in Ekrich. So in conclusion, brothers and sisters that study the scriptures, the Father is I am. The all is beyond time itself. He is, and he is life. He seeks connect to those who seek him. I'm just quoting your biblical scriptures. So you should seek him in fulfillment. You know? Right? Handling drone words, mirror words, Yoso, Somos. We're breaking things down. Right, Morris? Oh, my empress said you got 15 more minutes. Okay, she said I can go for 15 more minutes. So this is to my Moors that's confused about navigating and people giving out false information. And I tell people, it's only one more science temple. When you're doing things wrong, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble. So those who are called white sovereign citizens, melanated, so-called sovereign citizens, and Moors who are under that banner, are recognized as such who are out of line with the authority and teachings of our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right? And as I explained over and over and over, the so-called sovereign language, this UCC, this Uniform Commercial Codes, the United Nations Declaration, expiration procedures, etc., it has infected the Moorish movement. And our Prophet Noble Drew Ali has been noted to have said, if you want European Grand Sheiks, I can give them to you. Meaning our Prophet Noble Drew Ali got tired of Moors always running to Europeans and accepting their verification over his lessons of freedom and salvation, Moors. Have good intentions and who have not been properly educated. That's why I say you got to be careful when you bashing our brothers and sisters, calling them agents and calling them COINTELPROs. Because this a COINTELPRO is real. A brother that might not know what he's talking about, not an agent, not out to get you wrong. He just don't know. So if you know, illuminate him. And he still roll with that with the dumbness. Separate yourself. Some are criminal or Negro mentalities. Just because the brother have a fez on don't mean he has that fez on as righteousness. Some are looking to get a quick fix or get out of certain bills. They mix what Europeans, so-called sovereign groups, have been demonstrating and mixing those demonstrating with the documents and the information that our Prophet Noble Drew Ali was bringing to our people to salvation. There ain't no way you can not pay no taxes. Research a European in Canada. It was called the Paradigm Group, I think. And they all got in trouble. You must be an organization, which I am. That's how you're tax exempt. But one of the main reasons why Moors are confused is because they have not been educated about the national side of our divine and national movement. The national side is where the laws of freedom, the laws that protect our members, citizens, and students. The full process of proclaiming your nationality and the laws that give us the rights to do everything we need to do in order to build a nation and a government in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, my 2 cents, health and wealth, with privileges, immunities, and protection. The laws of freedom involve the 4 proclamations of Abraham Lincoln, the 13th Amendment with the sections, not to be confused with the 13th Amendment with 2 sections. Most known of today, the Hebrew codes that pertains to freedom, as shown by what, Moors? Leviticus 25:10, written on the Liberty Bell. Understanding how the Moors National Bureau of Vital Statistics was set up by Grand Sheikh Richard D. Engel, by going to the Pentagon to speak to the military on the naturalization and recording a process for the Moorish Americans to come back lawfully into the constitutional fold of the Union and correct their status, religion, race, name, birth certificate, and jurisdiction, and really understand what our Holy Quran Moorish literature, our one-on-one questionnaire, our authority, our charter and warrant and dispensation, and our divine constitution. Yep. By laws is really saying, especially the degrees in Act 6. When I demonstrated yesterday, when I showed you how we put things on notice when the letters was given to Bush when he was in presidency. I show you that. Everybody know our nationality. The only ones that's confused is Negro, black, and colors. I told you, go with peace, go to your city hall, go to your government officials with love and ask them before 1825 what were Negro, blacks, and colors, before the Civil War, before the American Revolution. Because this records, it's in the Library of Congress, it's record books. I'm going to show you when the other book, my research come about the ancient ones, about the Washita Moors and Empress Verdi. I'm going to break all that down, how they gave land back to the Moors. I'm going to break that down. There are a few more science temples that are not properly registered. Follow me. There are a few more science temples that are not properly registered, so they have no saying power or able to do anything political. There are some that only deal with the divine side and not teaching the national side. When I say this is the holy and divine, and we teach both, along with the inner fightings, the egos, and brothers and sisters, this is what Noble Drew Ali taught. All these brothers and sisters arguing, nobody winning. They just standing on corners arguing. No real work. They don't have their own clothing and brand. All my brothers and sisters that's under my auspices, we rock our own clothing line. We rock our own thing. We don't argue about what somebody creating. My children, that's part of my school, they wear their own clothing. They make their own. Right in our office. So let's dig, and I'm done. So I always teach about the national side and have reached out to many Moorish leaders. I reach out to all my brothers and sisters. Like I'm going back to Michigan. I've been reaching out to Moors in Detroit, but they under some dogma. And it's sad. You know, the understanding about freedom, naturalization, constitutional law, and understand exactly what our founder intended and taught so that our movement no longer stay in turmoil and the people have a solid foundation on how to save themselves with the protection of a temple and a Moorish government by not taking a proper look at what the national side is really all about, Moors. The local, state, and federal agencies, I'm telling you, they're making a list and they forming many task forces and investigating brothers that's not doing right, you know, that's claiming to be called sovereign citizens and following behind the so-called European sovereign citizens on how they wish to do things. So let's clear some things up. Let's clear some confusion up. And let's deal with those who wish to call themselves sovereign citizens. Through study of law and what our Prophet Noble Drew Ali has set up, Prophet Noble Drew Ali is the only true sovereign, Moors. I hope you know that. The only true creditor in the Western Hemisphere. Those who become members and citizens in his movement are the heirs. Prophet Noble Drew Ali demonstrated this, Moors, by how he registered our movement, the same way mine is registered, what has been recorded for public record, and the language of our charter, our Holy Quran, our one-on-one questionnaire, and the divine constitution, and the bylaws. No one individual can be a sovereign. And you will see, if you study Moors, your God, your Allah, or your higher power is your sovereign. Don't you know that? Which is then represented by the head of the nation and the government. So anyone wishing to be an individual sovereign is an error of the law and divine law. And our divine and national movement, the Dred Scott case, showed that there is a sovereign community body politic. We the people, not an individual. The language of our people wish to use will do nothing but get them jammed up in the end. I promise you more. I'm seeing it. I'm getting my doctoral degree in Indigenous People Law and Policy. I'm seeing brothers going there and trying to bring stuff that's been amended. And I'm laughing. And they say, well, have you spoke to Brother Bay? He's a student. I go to the court and I'm recording things for my literature and for my dissertation. And I'm like, man, brothers are not knowing the law. There's no excuse of not knowing the law in a court of law. Man, you must understand local, state, and federal law. And driving with license or without a license is not a federal case. That's state and local. But it will seem as confused legal jargon when I tell more. Just because a word might mean this in regular conversations, it doesn't mean that in the court of law. And what they would call you is a domestic terrorist, a paper terrorist. I'm telling you, I'm seeing them. Delusions of grandeur or being a sovereign in black. Talk about you're not an American and you're going to be some other city. They're not telling you a Mexican, but you are home. You're going to give up your home and you're not a citizen or you're not a no state. That means you are alien. These Negro, black, and colored, and these people with these feds on telling you, go tell them that you want to give up your residency in the state. You a fool. That don't make sense. Studying the language of Prophet Noble Drew Ali is key. The language as a prophet, adept, an angel, and an Ali. I hope y'all know what that is. We have those. It would only make sense that our Prophet Noble Drew Ali has foreseen what was to come and understood the language of law. So misguided Moors or individuals who wish to use the words Native American, Native Indian, American Indian, Amerindian, Aboriginal, First People, the First Nation, Original People, Indigenous, Paleo, Pre-Adamite, Autotoxin, etc. on their documents to prove that is who they are not dealing with specifics. Those are not specifics. Those are still misnomers and history on who they really are. Neither do they understand the language and information of what our prophet Noble Drew Ali was stating in chapter 45 and 47 in our Moorish Holy Quran, and question 12, 13, 14, 30, and 32 in the 101 questions. All those Moors would it describe the Moor and the Moorish Americans and does not have any holistic saving power, so that a de facto jurisdiction will be able to find a way to get jurisdiction or break treaties. Treaties been broke forever. And then a person that gets you with ish. Ish means similar to a non-original. Man, words have dual meanings. Yet in a negative context, but in a positive context, ish means the culture, the food, the dress, the people, the clothing, the spirituality. Come on, man. As it has been and will continue to be stated, when I always do these lectures, man, the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, is a trap. By studying the timeline, Moors, one will see that the UCC was formed to counteract what our Prophet Noble Drew Ali have done, which is take hold of the land, resources, and we have the mandate to prove it when we're talking about why you can control your own. The UCC was birthed in 1942 and crystallized in 1952, Moors. It is fashioned after an ancient laws and customs of trade and commerce. Research marine time that Moors was the originator of. However, Moors do not have to use it in today and time for salvation, Moors. Also using the UCC and the UCC1 filing to secure your straw man is committing a fraud. I say that emphatically with a silver tongue. It's committing a fraud. It was explained earlier, Moors, who's the creditor? Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And when Moors and those unnaturalized, you can research, they love reading in Black Law's Dictionary, reading the 9th edition for the definition of unnaturalized, and come under the temple and Moorish government. They will be protected and under the umbrella of the true creator. So dealing with the United Nations Declaration, Moors, what Moors have to ask themselves, do the United Nations have a charter? Yeah. Then you ask yourself, if the Moorish Science Temple have a charter, when you compare them, which language supersedes the other, Moors? And you will see that the Moorish Science Temple Charter is higher, is always higher than the United Nations Charter. So why are Moors using the declarations under the United Nations Charter? That's a question. And it's clear. Moors do not know or understand the national side of the movement or what our Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought. In international law, Moors, charters are seen as treaties. In that situation, Moors, the Moorish Science Temple Charter in its language supersedes every treaty. So as we can see, Moors, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali has closed up every loophole. And when he said, paraphrasing, I have the government, I just need the people. I hope you understand that. It will be clear Moors just have to get in line and under the right protection. A lot of misguided Moors and individuals who wish to expariate themselves only think that means that they are leaving from under the jurisdiction of the de facto jurisdiction. Expiration. Let's see what that means. For the Moors that love reading the Black Law's Dictionary, 4th edition, revised page 685. Expatriation. Expatriation. The voluntary act of abandoning one's country and becoming the citizen or subject of another. The voluntary renunciation or abandonment of nationality and allegiance. So not only is one leaving the foreign jurisdiction, Moors, they are leaving all jurisdictions. Laws of the land, basically naked, politically, and nationally. With that's the whole national wise. So if you listen, Moors, to what we're saying and research it, you can see that the law and history, that we do not teach or promote such acts or actions. We teach what our founder has highlighted. We teach what history can prove. We teach what can be confirmed and researched, that we are part and parcel of the said government, And we strive to be better citizens and true American citizens and take part in the process of law known as naturalization under the Hebrew codes that enable us to come back into the constitutional fold of our founder, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, has stated. And study it. It also includes coming back into the union and no longer being in rebellion, by one of the 4 proclamations of the Abraham Lincoln called the Proclamation of Amnesty and Reconstruction, right? We are part and parcel of the said government, and we are for enforcing the laws to save the nation, upholding constitutional laws. Proclamations of Abraham Lincoln, 13th Amendment with 20 sections, teaching law and adhering with what our founder, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, has stated in his warning, Act 5 of our divine constitution and bylaws. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes or in the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequences. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, my 2 cents more, health, and wealth. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. This is a divine warning by Noble Drew Ali. So we got to understand this, man. I'm not mixed up with a lot of groups that call themselves sovereign citizen movements and government agencies. I'm researching them and asking, are they part of this Moorish Science Temple? Absolutely not. It's not. So I just want brothers and sisters to be careful of people telling them to do something. You should say, okay, if you're telling me to do this, show me that you've done it and watch what happens. They'll start buck dancing. If a person telling you to fill some paperwork out and take this and do this, all you got to do is ask them, let me see, have you done it? And they haven't. Study, 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 study more. Donate. We're real. Anytime you donate, when you get one of our books that I gathered and compiled, you will get our reading list to our library with all type of history and books. I love you all, Moors. Create, navigate, ask questions, understanding who you are historically, spiritually. Understand that you're not Negro, black, and colored, that you are Moorish American. It can be proven. Understanding that the Asiatic man is the father of civilization. You can prove it. Things can be proven. Understand that the Hebrew codes, palindrome word, the Hayah, Yah to the right, Yah to the left. Read the preface of the Holy Name Bible. When I show you historically, no matter where it comes from, the pen will tell you. If the Carmen dating doesn't match the pen, you must change the pen, not the Carmen dating. Research. I love you all, Moors. We are one. I'm telling you, I'm going to give you that history, man, of the Washita Moors. One nationality, many cultures. My Hebrew brothers, all my brothers and sisters, my Moors, I love all y'all. We have to come together and build this nation. We can have our own blocks, man, our own neighborhoods. One nationality, many cultures. I'm not here to strip anybody from their culture. That's why a lot of Moors, I wear my feather. I understand about this. These are national headdresses. The feather, the turban, the bonnet is all yours. I love you all, Moors. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, my 2 cents, health, and wealth. And we build bridges, not walls. Peace.